Imagine world suddenly plunged into an ice age. Outside, temperatures have dropped to a steady minus 60 degrees Celsius. In such conditions, heat and food have become the most valuable resources in the frozen concrete jungle of South Korea. The survivors initially tried to survive together, but quickly realized that there weren't enough resources for everyone. And then a real war broke out in the cold corridors of apartment buildings. But amid all this chaos, there is one guy, Hang Feng, who is fearless in his fortified base with heat, girls, and plenty of food. He is a regressor who not only went back in time before the apocalypse began and prepared himself properly, but also gained superpowers that allow him to clone and increase the size of food. He didn't stop there, and later built himself a real fortified base with heat, greenhouses, and even a sauna. So, how did it all begin? Let's find out. The transmission cuts off into silence and is replaced by the roaring voice of someone calling out Han Feng. The guy is making his way to open the door while quivering in the cold. Peeping through the hole, he discovers that it's actually his crush Hyona, who can't stand being in the cold and can barely talk. He opens the door without hesitation to see if she's doing all right, and quickly invites her inside. In an unexpected turn of events, Hyona leaps up to kiss him, much to Han Feng's shock and amazement. She's out here putting in effort in the kiss, because by the end of it, Bro is at a loss for words and can't describe what's gotten into her all of a sudden. Keep in mind, she was supposed to be his crush, so the dude is probably feeling like a gigachad on the inside for finally scoring a win. It's at this moment Hyona confesses her feelings, stating how she's always loved him. After descending balls deep into a terrifying apocalypse, she has begun to understand that someone like him truly cares about others. To sell her point even more, Hyona makes him touch her body so that he can sense her racing heartbeat, stating that she's ready to do anything with him. And yes, that's the honey trap that our guy ends up falling for. Because while he's busy out here imagining the birds and the bees, Hyona doubles down on rubbing her thigh between his legs, causing him to get even more lost and careless in his feelings. He also shares his feelings right back, stating that while she truly means the world to him, it doesn't make sense for them to behave this way right now. Hyona is an excellent manipulator because she tells our boy to close his eyes so that he can enjoy the process. Full of joy, he closes his eyes, questioning what's going to happen next. He's probably got the excitement of a child while this is happening. But then, well, dude's first kiss with his crush is followed up by his skull getting bashed by her bastard boyfriend. A heavy smash against his head leaves his body in a puddle of blood. Poor guy is quivering in pain while Hyona expresses her terror. She wasn't expecting them to actually murder someone in cold blood. But her boyfriend reminds the bitch that she can't play innocent, when from the beginning they both understood this guy had to go. They weren't going to spare Han Feng, not when everyone in this world is out for themselves in the apocalypse. Instead of caring about him, they express their happiness having discovered Han Feng's resources and loot. As for the nice guy who tried to show someone kindness, well, he's eating shit right now drenched in his own blood and unable to move. The clinging of death succumbs to him, and the last thing he sees is Hyona getting excited with her man. His demise happened all because of one ruthless woman's planning, so in his final moment, he makes a vow. If he's given a second chance, he's going to stop being someone else's toy to be used and discarded. As his consciousness fades to black, the terrifying feeling is replaced by a shimmer-warm light, drawing him near and near. At first he thinks it's a way for him to get into heaven, but then, his innocent expectations are tarnished as his spiritual body experiences a world of pain and bursts into 100 pieces. By the end of that traumatizing sequence, he jolts up awake from his bed, his face is full of sweat and he questions his surroundings. Han Feng was just fading away just a few seconds ago, and now he's okay. It's not just that he's fine, the world is fine too. There's no signs of an apocalypse, the sun is warm even after 30 minutes of waiting. It's the kind of warmth that he never expected to see again. From the calendar, Han Feng checked and learned that today was June 28th. The date of the apocalypse in the original timeline is supposed to start on July 15th. This means that he had a post-death regression that led him to arrive back in time just a few weeks before the apocalypse. The feeling of shock, amazement, and confusion all show up on his face. He clearly wasn't expecting to be reborn, but this time he's returned with a few changes. Let's talk about that glowing red hand for a second. Ever since Han Feng regained consciousness, this guy's hand just can't stop glowing red. He tries waving it off, and yet nothing happens. To describe the sensation, The glow feels warm and it doesn't hurt or anything. At first, he thought that his mind was playing tricks on the guy, but then Han Feng sneezed out of nowhere, leading to yet another intriguing development. The same hand that was red a second ago is now glowing a bright green, adding even more to his confusion. But there's a difference this time, because Han Feng actually loses control of the magnitude of his glowing power, causing it to get even bigger. In a state of hurry and panic, he stands there looking lost at his newfound problem. The radiating glow out of nowhere starts shrinking in his hand. The behavior of the glowing effect is odd and different from the red one. Taking a seat, he expresses his sudden drop in energy. Yeah, ever since the green one activated, his body has been more drained than ever. Frustratingly waving his hand in anger, Han Feng comes to a sudden realization. This is exactly happening just like those awesome manhwa stories he likes to read. In the same fashion, the main character is reborn, and this time with overpowered abilities. So in order to test his own, Bro pulls out a damn knife, hoping for some miracle to happen. But funnily, nothing goes his way as the blade doesn't react and he's standing there looking like a clown. Not to mention his tummy is grumbling because of the energy loss he experienced. Checking his fridge turns out to be a waste of time, because there's just nothing in there. The situation is growing more troublesome for him than he thought. He has to eat at least something, or he's gonna risk going unconscious again. An idea comes to mind when he spots a jar of roasted soybeans. The only snacks that could be feasibly used in the apocalypse. Even though it's not a proper meal, it's filling enough for now. Reaching for one of the beans, he pops one in his mouth. But the moment he does that, the soybean explodes into a fully grown bean plant. His radiating glowing green hand is gone, and so is his exhaustion. Han Feng doesn't get if it had something to do with the soybeans, or if it's something he did. He grabs and pops open one of the bean sprouts, amazed to discover that this is his new power. Han Feng is impressed and wants to study it intensely. But with his current state, he has a couple of issues to take care of firsthand. First up is stocking up on supplies so he doesn't go short during the apocalypse. To the supermarket he goes. In the next scene, he's navigating through a busy crowd, all of them lost in their thoughts and chattering about. Han Feng is confused and collects his thoughts. So far he's got two types of radiating hands, and the green one is known to be more unstable, causing him added effects of exhaustion. Then there's the last part, perhaps the most interesting of the bunch. The moment he touched the soybeans with his glowing hand, they became proper bean sprouts. He still can't figure out the specifics of his power, causing his frustration. While he's lost in thought, a familiar voice graces his ears. Hyona, the same bitch that betrayed him in his previous life, is here to see him. She's drop-dead gorgeous, but that's the thing. Getting involved with her is literally gonna drop you 6 feet under the ground. Han Feng is pretty shocked to run into her again like this. A little more background on his crush. Lee Hyona has been his long-lost crush for 3 years straight. He played every trick in the book to get her to like him back, but deep down our boy knew he was just a backup if anything. And now, after what happened to him, after the way she deceived him and got him murdered in cold blood, he is pissed. Rage is filling up his body, but he's not the type to go ballistic on someone considering his situation of being reborn. Han Feng assures himself and calms him down, hoping to take his revenge properly some other time. For now, he's got some supplies to gather. Hyona shows concern for the guy, waving her hand in an effort to grab his attention because he appears spaced out. Trying his best to maintain politeness with her, he praises Hyona for being so beautiful that it stunned him for a bit. She calls him a smooth talker in return, and thinks that it's a good opportunity to invite him out to go shopping. But even with her attempt, the girl gets straight up rejected as he moves past Hyona like she's not even worth paying attention to. This gives her a reality check so hard that she's lost for words. The reality is, Han Feng fully understands that she's only being so kind as to invite him so that she can use him as a personal bank for her own groceries. He's done being someone else's pet, so that won't happen anymore. The Waldemar Shopping Plaza is known to be the most well-stocked supermarket in the region. In the original timeline, the moment the Arctic apocalypse began, this place was cleaned up and emptied up in a single night. It's still unknown who managed to rob it like that. But for now, Han Feng's objective is to stock up as much as humanly possible. Being intelligent, he actually discovered a survival guide list to get all the stuff he needs. Stuff like food, winter clothing, medicine, necessities, fuel, and a whole bunch of other useful items. Well, while he's got a huge shopping list, there comes a second problem. Bro doesn't have enough money to do shit. While he's sulking, the guy receives a sudden message, proving him eligible to grab a giant loan of 170,000 yuan for this year. It's just the lottery ticket he needed after all. Who the hell is gonna repay debt during the apocalypse anyway? And so, using all of the loan apps he could find on the internet, Han Feng began twiddling his fingers, making sure he got loans from everywhere. The scene switches to Hyona, who is pretty damn frustrated with the way he treated her today. This bitch is a stuck-up who can't get over the fact that her personal simp refused her like that. It tells you a lot about her personality, but I'm sure more didn't need to be said after she got the guy killed in his previous life. Hyona is cursing Han Feng for being a pathetic loser without a car, and doesn't expect to be nice to him any time in the future. Speaking of the devil, a car drives up to her and honks at her. Hyona's reaction is one of shock when she discovers that the driver is actually the same guy she was talking shit about. It's Han Feng. He drops by to talk to her, stating how he purchased the vehicle just now. After all, his father has been making a ton of money in the States, so it's only natural he sent over some cash for him to have fun with. He also tells her that he was busy taking his father to the airport. This fact actually cools her down, making her think that she was turned down because he had an important job to attend. She apologizes for asking him out during an important time. In usual Gaslighter Pro Max Girl Edition fashion, she acts cute while crying and complaining about how cruel he was. Han Feng's reaction is interesting to say the least. First he calls her foolish, and then grabs her close, stating that he won't ever ditch someone like Hyona, as she's far too important to him. The arrogant chick thinks that she scored the lottery, so she plays on his feelings again, hoping to manipulate him by saying that she feels the same way about him. She recommends watching a movie with him and having some nice dinner. But right as she's saying these things, our boy says, "Peace the fuck out," and is already tending to his luggage. He complains about how busy he is with the stuff he's got to take back. Even Hyona is stupefied as to why he bought so much stuff out of the blue. In return, Han Feng plays it cool and says it's because he wanted to. To raise her expectations, he tells her that he also got Hyona a present. Feeling all happy and bubbled up, she decides to head home, hoping to see it later. As she's leaving, Hyona's got a really satisfied look on her face, thinking she killed that. But she doesn't know that our boy also shares the exact same look on his face. They're both manipulating the other, and it just so happens that he is never going to let out the secrets of his stockpile. It's the one ticket he's got of surviving this damned apocalypse. When that moment comes, when the world sinks into despair and destruction, Han Feng fully intends to take his revenge on the bastard who killed him as well as Hyona. He also confesses that it's making him eager to enjoy the apocalypse this time. Yeah, something tells me Hyona is about to eat shit, and it's gonna be really damn satisfying when that happens. The day of the apocalypse is only 2 weeks far. That day, immense heavy snow will cover the planet, and the temperatures will drop close to -20 degrees Celsius. Over the course of the next month, all temperatures will experience a gradual drop, reaching the likes of -70 degrees, and the world will be fully covered in snow. Going outside will become physically impossible, and that's the reason food is so important. He's brought all the stuff back to his apartment, fully packing it with proper covering so that no one suspects him of hoarding supplies. For the most troublesome supplies, he's gonna make sure to move them at night when no one's around. Speaking of the apocalypse, a secondary issue will come in the form of power supply. With its instability, fuel is going to be necessary. And it just so happens that Han Feng has purchased a year's worth of fuel to make sure nothing goes wrong. To combat his next problem, he knows that the heating systems cannot function anymore, so he brought a construction crew to alter his house properly, adjusting it so that everything is reinforced and resistant against the apocalypse to come. Finally, he's made up a dedicated room for supplies and inventory, so that nobody suspects him, and that he can access anything whenever he wants. By the time he wrapped up all of his preparations, July 14th was already upon him. Now, there was only 1 day left before the temperature annihilated itself to an uncontrollable degree. With all of his preparations finished, the final item on his checklist is to study his superpower. In order to get out of this winter apocalypse without freezing to death, even Han Feng knows that relying on his supplies won't be enough for him to survive. And it's here when his plant-based powers will come into play as a beacon of hope. In front of him are the same soybeans that he actually managed to grow using his own powers. And now it's time for the taste test. The issue is, he's yet to figure out the main trigger for his ability. But anyway, Han Feng decides to take a spoonful, and despite his fears, hopes that this food is edible at the least. After finishing up half the plate, it's safe to conclude that these beans aren't producing any terrible effects. This means that he can safely produce and eat food using this power. But the tricky part is figuring out how or what makes his hand glow like that. Based on his experimentation, he's only tried his ability on soybeans, so he inspects his fridge, hoping to find some other veggies to try it on. Noon is quickly followed by the evening. A drowsy and weak Han Feng opens his eyes, questioning if he ended up passing out just now. He's holding broccoli in his hand, and the kitchen is splattered with vegetables. He can't even think properly because of the exhausting effects of his own power. That's the only drawback so far. Eating the same soybeans from earlier, he comments on how this way, he successfully managed to learn something new about his ability. Let's talk about what went down right before he went unconscious. He ordered a bunch of stuff down to test his power and used it on a different set of plants. Here's the strange part. Some of the plants were completely non-reactive. But as for others, seeds, for example, grew into proper plants, just like what he experimented with the soybeans. There's also a third category. Some of them detonated right in his hand, which remains to be a mystery as to why. Han Feng also discovered the charred substances that share the appearance of coal upon their detonation. But it's a good thing because these same substances can be stored and later reused to provide warmth. With this, he successfully found a way to keep himself warm in the harsh apocalypse to come. Excited, he concentrated on honing his powers and experimenting on a few more. While he was failing at first, when Han Feng tries focusing his power, the magical effects are prominent, giving him what he wants. The guy was deprived of energy and went down on the floor. Back to the present, he appears to be really confused about the logic of his own power. Some plants work, others don't. It's hard to find what works and what doesn't. Still, from this experience, he's realized the key part of the trigger. It's actually imbued into his consciousness. So he tries meditating on an ethereal experience where he is one with nature, an experience that connects his mind and body all the same. The fruits of his imagination end up becoming successful, because right after opening his eyes, Han Feng is satisfied to discover his glowing green hand. This confirms his suspicion that his ability is linked to his consciousness. To test it out even more, he tries his ability on a bunch of meat for good measure. Poor guy finds himself disappointed when it doesn't work on meat, because that would mean he's got to live off of plants for the rest of his life. Even after concentrating and begging his powers to work, nothing happens. This makes him question his thoughts again. Remember his meditation technique. When he does that, he experiences two unique colors, one being red and the other green. And so far, he's only experimented with green. So this time, he closes his eyes shut, hoping to connect his mind to his second ability. To his shock, his hand starts glowing red and affects the meat, turning it into a disgusting spiky blob that is barely recognizable anymore. Feeling so disgusted by the effects, he tosses the meat on the ground and approaches it slowly for another inspection. Han Feng pinches the meat and then grabs it again, questioning if the meat reacted to his red radiating light. It also seems like the meat was cooked properly, which begs the question if the red light is only responsible for heating stuff up. Inspecting his hand again, he starts to realize something. It's not that the meat was cooked, no. It's the opposite. This thing is actually reverting back to a process of disintegration. From this revelation, he's found a discovery. The green light speeds up the evolutionary process, and the red light slows it down immensely, reverting it into disintegration. In an effort to combine the two, he clasps his hands together with the meat. A burst of yellow forms, and the same meat turns into a larger slab than ever before. But that makes him question what happened to the soybeans that he also had in his hand. They disappeared, which probably means they merged with the meat in some way. Han Feng is really amazed by the output of his own powers, as after further inspection, he comes to the conclusion that the meat is the freshest he's ever seen. He's excited and wants to try it out one more time. But his luck isn't so kind to him, because bro ends up failing so bad that everything turns to black. He's slamming his hands on the floor in frustration, but eventually settles with patience. There's lots of time for him to experiment with his powers. He's happy that he got to make a whole bunch of different discoveries in just one day. If only he can master this ability to its fullest, Bro thinks he's going to become Superman and stand at the top of the world. But then the idiot realizes that food isn't the only thing that's necessary to save his life. Right now, he needs a weapon to protect himself from other humans. Right as he's thinking of going out to buy a weapon, the realization dawns on him. The apocalypse has begun. Just like last time, the world is experiencing an absurd amount of snow in July. He goes out regardless, believing that it's necessary to find a gun before temperatures reach -45 degrees. At the same time, he can't exactly buy a gun when it's illegal in the country. As he's busy in thought, he sees a broccoli hairpunk ranting about how he's the younger brother of Lao Wang from the Shurgang leader group. You know, the typical, "my brother's got more money than you" tactic for winning petty arguments. Han Feng actually recognizes this clown from somewhere, thanks to his shitty fashion style and all. The funniest shit is how the people have decided to dub a name for this guy, calling him Homeless Joe. Let's talk about Li Zi, or Homeless Joe, who lives in the same neighborhood as him. The guy's known to be a contractor who has networks with everyone around. People come around asking him what's up and what's going on. And he acts like he's the busiest dude in the block, about how he's so busy dealing with his projects with his big brother. Bro doesn't even have a job, and he's always seen whining on his phone, pretending like he's got millions and millions on a project to spend some time on. Seeing this guy, Han Feng wonders if the idiot can help him get the weapon he needs. He greets Homeless Joe and pretends to know him for a while. So the thing is, this guy doesn't really know our boy at all. Han Feng pretends to be Xiao Han, taking advantage of his pride and acting like they're long-lost friends who should remember each other. The homeless idiot gives in to the bait and apologizes for not remembering, especially when he's got so much work to do. Han Feng checks his surroundings and quickly closes in on the punk, explaining his entire situation. When he's done explaining, Homeless Joe experiences a jolt of shock, questioning what the hell this dude needs a gun for. At this point, Han Feng is at a loss for words. Before he can even whip out a proper excuse, the blonde punk warns him that guns aren't something to be taken lightly, because they're illegal. Even though he's got connections that can get him weapons, that doesn't mean Homeless Joe is in the mood to get into some kind of dangerous business. Han Feng clarifies his situation, stating that he needs it for self-defense because some people have a grudge against him. He talks about a made-up story of how he ran into a guy on his way to work. They were both on a bike, and that man carelessly spat in his face. Of course, it pissed him the heck off, so he confronted the clown and started beating the crap out of him for everyone to watch. After humiliating him, he left the man to his way. The man actually held a grudge and told him that he'd return with his buddies. And so the very next day, Bro got destroyed by the entire gang. They were clowning on him and roughened Han Feng top to bottom. After that beatdown, he's been wanting to have a self-defense weapon to protect himself. Luckily, Homeless Joe is sympathetic for his story and makes a huge deal that spitting on someone is definitely a step too far. He thinks this kind of behavior should be punished, but Han Feng is starting to think that maybe this guy ended up missing the damn point of his complaining. Still, Homeless Joe wraps his arm around him like a guardian angel and promises to save the day. He's gonna make his call to his big brother, and everything will be sorted out. Han Feng is glad that things are going his way. Homeless Joe recommends they take the boss because his luxurious car is being serviced right now. Han Feng is okay with that, showing Homeless Joe that he's got a vehicle for them to work with. As they're driving their way, Homeless Joe is shocked and asks about the price of the car. Our boy reveals that it cost him $700,000, which appears to be a pretty good deal in his eyes. Bro is out here snapping pictures like he's some kind of Instagram heartthrob. The hilarious part is that he captions it as if the SUV is his own. Speaking of the big brother he talks about, his punks are out chilling with a fire, commentating on the absurd weather conditions. Han Feng's car stops by and Homeless Joe pops right out. The guy is out here acting smug and shit. The rest of his boys can't believe that Homeless Joe's got his own SUV now. And this guy is such a slimeball that he even tells them he bought it for $700,000 of his own pocket. Han Feng is left with the impression that Homeless Joe is seriously quite bold for saying something like that in front of the owner of the vehicle. In the next scene, the punk brings Han Feng to his boss. As you can guess from a gang leader, dude's got tattoos all over his body. He's displeased to see his brother here and immediately shows the blonde punk the door. To that, homeless Joe puts all the pressure on Han Feng, stating that his friend over here wants to buy a gun. The gang leader is surprised at first and gives our boy a mean-ass look. Han Feng is terrified, while the boss is a bit annoyed that they came all the way here in search of one lousy gun instead of something more interesting by comparison. The boss tells his lackey to fetch a handgun, which is tossed over to Han Feng for a price of 6,000. However, our boy isn't in the mood to play around with tiny dick pistols. Nah, he's here planning to go full John Wick mode and requests a longer weapon with a scope. The boss is alarmed by the kid's audacity and confronts him for demanding a goddamn sniper rifle. He reminds Han Feng that he isn't here in a position to negotiate or search around as if this were his own shopping mall. Yep, the boss is a stuck-up guy who is going angry for no reason. That's where homeless Joe and his stories come to the front. He whips another one of his stories again. This time it's about Han Feng's wife who cheated on him 3 times. By the end of that storytelling session, the boss throws up a furious tantrum, feeling rageful on our boy's sake. The ridiculous stories are movie material from the looks of it. Anyway, the boss agrees to the request of a sniper rifle at last, stating that it's still going to take a few days. Han Feng is grateful that his request is being tended to. Chengzi, the underling, is told to arrange a semi-auto for him as well. The boss has actually decided to take pity on him and has thrown in a free gun as a gift for the guy. Han Feng is truly starstruck when he sees him offering the handgun without any cost. Returning his gratitude, our boy decides to slip up an important piece of information to the gang. He talks about how he's friends with the government and how the weather conditions are only going to get worse from here on out. This means it's best to stock up on supplies quickly, because they will run out soon. This time, Han Feng maintains an air of seriousness in his gaze, adding on to the weight of his advice. The boss agrees to take his advice, and that's how they ended up concluding the meeting with the boss. Returning back, homeless Joe talks about how he handled that meeting like a pro mediator. He also thinks that it's good that his brother was in a pleasant mood today. Han Feng is really grateful and even hopes to buy him a bunch of cigarettes. Homeless Joe puts up an act of goodness at first, but then eventually caves into his offer. The funniest thing is how he's requesting 8 cartons full of cigarettes for the job, thinking that it should be an easy request. While he's ranting about, Han Feng is focusing on his checklist. He's got everything he needs for the apocalypse now, and the rest of the time will be spent studying his abilities. The only thing he's got to solve is how to work around his food troubles. And then it will be all smooth sailing from there. Right as he's confidently going about his plans, Bro slips right in front of homeless Joe and takes a really bad fall. Han Feng's leg is in shambles as he quivers in pain. Homeless Joe doesn't even know what the hell happened so suddenly. Our boy has strong suspicions that he probably broke his leg. He hands Joe the keys to help drive them to the hospital. Staring at him in silence, the blonde punk shamefully reveals that he doesn't even have a driver's license. So instead, he's got to take the old-school approach. The punk tries to help our boy lean on his side, but the scene is so damn depressing that Han Feng orders a taxi to avoid the torture. In the next scene, we're at the hospital. In the receptionist area, Ji Yen, the head nurse, is working the night shift and observes how the snow is only getting heavier with every hour. Suddenly, she receives an emergency call to come to the hall as they're short on staff. By the way, our boy really did end up breaking his damn leg. He's at the hospital devastated to receive the report of his fracture. An hour of observation is necessary before he can leave with his meds. He planned for everything just for a random factor to knock everything out the window. Brother Lee bids him farewell, stating that he's got a bunch of deals to take care of because of his super busy schedule and all. Well, that brings Han Feng back to square one. He's all on his own, and this time he's got a bad leg to take care of, too. The hospital is swarmed with people. There's a sudden uprise in patients because of the insane weather conditions and alarming temperatures. It only shows how bad the situation is going to get outside in a few weeks. Han Feng is busy waiting for his medicines, but the queue is just way too long. He spots the pretty head nurse in the distance, who is currently helping around by checking the patient's pulse. She's quite reliant in the hospital, so the doctors and other nurses are happy to make use of her. While she's doing her business, it knocks the wind out of our boy. Han Feng is swooned and fails to believe that someone can be a head nurse at such a young age. She's also extremely kind to every patient, not to mention her adorable looks from top to bottom. Yep, he's simping again, but this time for a different lady. While he's admiring her looks, an old man requests for her aid and she comes rushing to see him. He tells her that his back is suddenly hurting, but Jin Yen can't help but remind him that they're already short-staffed, so it's going to take a while to take his request. The real goal of this sleazy old man is to take advantage of the head nurse. He slips a camera just below her legs to take a photo while she's clueless and tending to the request. She promises to get back to him with an X-ray when they're less overwhelmed. But the old geezer doesn't stop there. He goes on full PDF file mode and grabs a hold of her body. The naive head nurse still doesn't suspect anything and assures him that a proper physician will be here soon enough to examine the patient properly. But here's the issue. The old geezer doubles down and cops a feel of the hospital's finest bakery. Before he can pull more shit, our boy throws his damn crutch in his face, making him fall to the ground. The head nurse is alarmed and questions if the old man is okay, while Han Feng apologizes for not knowing how to use a crutch. Yes, because when you don't know about something, you throw it right at someone with full speed. Han Feng acts like he's checking on the old man's phone, right as the old geezer shouts at him to stop. Our boy spots the picture in his gallery and gets pissed. He can't believe that this bastard not only snapped a photo of the nurse, but also had the gall to touch her like that. He confronts him at once, threatening to call the security on him to have the old geezer escorted to a cell. After all, it would make for one less annoying patient in the hospital, especially one who is there to take advantage of others. Also, Han Feng is in no mood to return the phone, promising to release the report on social media if he catches the creep pulling stuff like this ever again. Unable to do anything, the old man runs away in frustration. Yes, the same guy who was having back problems 1 second ago can suddenly sprint faster than light, right out of the hospital. Even the head nurse is at a loss for words with how fast he ran. Meanwhile, Han Feng is left with the impression that some people are truly at the height of naivete_U00E9 in their world. He shows her the photo and points out how the guy had ill intentions from the beginning. Han Feng is okay with her handling this situation, and even hands her the phone to report to the police. Jin Yun is really happy and retrieves the device, but she's also got an alarming question. Wasn't Han Feng's ankle injured? And that reminds him, he's just fractured his damn leg and acted purely out of adrenaline. So this realization is when the pain really sinks in as he shouts in pain. A while later, she quickly has him bandaged up properly. Han Feng luckily doesn't feel much pain anymore. The head nurse is really grateful to him and promises not to let any other people take advantage of her. But while she's saying that, our boy's foot is being driven up right into her two personalities. Han Feng is under the impression that this girl isn't gonna learn anytime soon. Jin Yun is called again for her duties, so she clumsily runs away, reminding our boy to return after a week for a proper checkup. Han Feng internalizes that unfortunately, he will never be able to see her again because of what will happen in 1 week's time. He leaves with that depressing thought in his mind. The following day, the weather conditions take a turn for the worse. News reports of heavy drops and temperatures are being sprung all over the world. Even Dubai and Egypt are receiving heavy snowfalls, which is unheard of. The experts ranging from 46 countries have come to rush an immediate meeting to discuss what's truly going on. According to these experts, the severe cold is only temporary and will break after a few days. Still, the people are warned to stay inside and follow proper procedure to stay comfortable. By the way, Han Feng appears undisturbed in his modified room. He's got a heater with endless warmth, and he's got nothing to fear honestly. The news keeps talking about how the disaster will pass, but he knows that it will never happen. It's just a lie to control the reactions of the public. It's pure bullshit, and it makes him feel like a clown believing in them the first time around. But this time, things are different. He's ready, really ready. He's fully loaded out with stocks, and his heating system is up and running. For now, there's practically nothing left to bother him. The building group chat is actually going crazy, talking about how insane the cold is getting and how they can't manage to stay warm here. The interesting thing about this group chat is that one anonymous person flat out reveals that the Ice Age apocalypse is about to begin, and that the snowstorm is something caused within the Earth itself. The messages shock Han Feng because nobody is supposed to know about this information just yet. Hang Feng's mind instantly registers this random mysterious dude as someone he should definitely be wary of. After all, being the protagonist of the story, Hang Feng's supposed to be the only one who knows about the upcoming apocalypse. The once happy housing complex residents now look like a mob on a leash, tagging the property management to step up and fix the mess this snowstorm's been causing them lately. Since reading endless blind text messages is boring as hell, the group chat turns into a metaphorical theme park where all the residents show up as chibi cat avatars. The angry residents are not thrilled with how things are going. If the snow keeps piling up in front of the exit, they won't even be able to go grocery shopping. They paid a fat chunk of money just to get lousy service. If anything, they want to have a talk with the property agent if management can't make their money worth it. On the other side, the property management team is in a state of panic too, apologizing non-stop for the inconvenience. But a few half-hearted apologies won't ease the frustration weighing on the residents because of the poor management. Honestly, they want refunds. This shit ain't not worth it. Amid all this chaos is our guy, Hang Feng, who's clearly annoyed watching these residents drain their energy arguing over nonsense. It's not like the complex owner has some magic powers to undo the snowstorm. But not everyone in the complex has given up hope. One resident, Zhen Zue Yu, is mature enough to admit they can't fight a blizzard. His better idea: they should help each other instead of making things harder. Natural disasters are totally out of the property management's control, so blowing off steam on them is pointless. Well, not everyone in the lobby agrees with Zhen's chill attitude. These people are so untamed and short-sighted that instead of working together, they start trashing Zhen for dick-riding the property management. Zhen tries to explain he's not taking anyone's sides, he's just being realistic and objective. It's completely pointless to back property management into a corner when arguing won't get them anywhere. But once again, the crowd refuses to calm down unless the snow outside is cleared so they can shop for groceries. Starving to death isn't exactly their vibe. Zhen does his best to talk sense into this dullard mob. He points out that even if the snow is cleared outside, that doesn't guarantee the roads will be clear too. For what it's worth, he suggests walking to the grocery store on foot, especially since clearing footpaths is way more doable than clearing the roads. Meanwhile, Hang Feng is making this sour face after recognizing the dude who's been preaching left and right like a bootleg guru. The way our boy looks at him, it's clear their history isn't exactly pleasant. Suddenly, a BS repellents guy with an annoyed face jumps into the chat. No formalities. He just lays it out. If anyone wants to eat, they need to head outside and start clearing the roads. Otherwise, all the gossip won't melt the snow. Then he logs off. Another guy steps up, ready to head down and help clean the mess outside. This blunt-tongued thug seems to be another figure Hang Feng is familiar with. Slowly but surely, the residents start joining the crew to clear the roads. Even the delicate cuties are willing to get their hands dirty for this noble cause. Then there's the unforgettable Huna, who's also volunteering to help. Hang Feng isn't sure how a pussy like her even agreed to join. Turns out, her volunteering is just a ploy to attract all the gooners who don't want a beauty like her to drain herself when men are around. As expected, she milked the moment and dumped her responsibilities on others. What else do you expect from an opportunistic bitch like her? As Hang Feng logs out of the chat, the frustration on his face is obvious. This woman never disappoints when it comes to ruining his mood. Right now, she's actually texting him. Why, you ask? Well, because she knows this desperate gooner would do anything she asks, so she wants him to bring her food supplies. She even throws in a bonus pic of her bare legs, thick thighs, barely any clothes, all aimed right at our boy's soul. Hang Feng wants to rate her a solid 10 to 10 for the effort, seducing him with barely their clothes despite the cold. But with his leg broken, even if he wanted to chase the booty, he can't do squat. So he decides to toss back a teasing remark guaranteed to make her skin crawl. And sure enough, his words do the trick. She's so annoyed she wants to stomp on him. Here's a little throwback to what's been going down. Today marks the third day ever since the blizzard started, with temperatures already dropping below 20 degrees. Since this was just the beginning of the destruction about to unfold, the central heating was still running. The internet was still up and running for everyone's daily dose of distraction. So, just like any bored teenager, Hang Feng did nothing but scroll through TikTok, watching those busty ladies making shorts. Though honestly, he isn't feeling it. In fact, He is already bored, and it's only the second day of the so-called apocalypse. This got him thinking about what loneliness can really do to a man. His broken leg wasn't helping either, seriously cramping his style and trapping him in place. And it's gonna be at least a few months before he fully recovers. With no other option, he dives back into video after video. That's when he stumbles on something awe-inspiring in a news report. Turns out there's a dude with a crazy ability to heal himself. According to the doctors, this guy fell off the 15th floor, wrecking his internal organs and mangling his bones completely. But not long after, the guy started regenerating. Like, actually healing himself. Thinking about supernatural powers got Hang Feng remembering he had some tricks up his own sleeve. So, he activated the familiar green light glowing over his hand and tried to heal his broken bone. But the green energy fizzled out without doing a damn thing. He tried again, but nope, only failure awaited him. After admitting defeat, he slumped back on the couch, disappointed that his hopes had been raised for just a moment. After hours of endless scrolling, he finally started drifting into the dream realm. In his dream, he was rocking some primitive garb, riding a massive goat. Not just one goat, a whole freaking flock of goats following him, with goat heads flapping as they soared. In this zoomed-out shot, you can see this massive horde following him closely behind. But suddenly, the fun ride screeches to a halt when the goat slammed on the brakes, tossing him off its back. He hurt his leg in the fall, and one of the goats starts licking it. He finds this weird act of goat compassion pretty gross and pushes the creature away, which annoys the goat. Then the goat whipped out its absurdly long tongue, wrapped it around Hang Feng's leg and jerks it right into the sky. The part of his leg the tongue is wrapped around starts to heal instantly. Right at that moment, Hang Feng woke up in a cold sweat, totally shocked. For real, that bizarre dream messed him up so bad he is literally sweating down to his balls. Suddenly, he notices his leg is glowing with green energy, showing signs of self-repair. Not long after, he carefully unwraps his bandages and gingerly plants his foot on the floor. Surprisingly, it didn't hurt at all. Looks like that green light did help him recover, but only after he fell asleep. To test this wild theory, he grabs a sharp knife in a morbid attempt to hurt himself, hoping to trigger the healing all over again. His hand trembles as he reluctantly slices a small cut on his index finger. While he is testing his newfound ability, let's cut back outside. There, the angry mob of residents is finally putting their energy to good use. Thanks to their combined efforts, they cleared the path in front of the main gate.